Hello, I'm Brigantia, Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Wednesday and welcome to the Havamal. Today we're going to look at verse 47 and look at 3 different translations. The first translation reads, Young was I once, I walked alone, and bewildered seemed in the way. Then I found me another, and rich I thought me, for man is the joy of man. That's by Olive Bray. Second translation. Young and alone on a long road, once I lost my way. Rich I felt when I found another. Man rejoices in man. W. H. Auden and P. B. Taylor. And now, of course, we go to the Cowboy Havamal, and it reads, I was young once, I walked alone, and I got lost on my way. It wasn't alone that I found happiness. There's no joy in loneliness. That is, of course, from Dr. Jackson Crawford. So upon reading this, I would imagine that the more introverted among us, or those who are more committed to their introversion, might feel a smidge attacked by this verse. In addition to that, there's a certain amount of discomfort that many of us feel when socializing, anxiety even, myself included. And I have observed that another layer we have to contend with on this is that becoming antisocial and rejecting companionship is an idea that has been romanticized, and this is something that seemed to be increasingly popular with subsequent generations. And over again, I hear that either people, they don't like people, which, let's be honest, that is a very fair criticism, especially when we look at how so many people behave these days. But another thing that people say is that they're afraid of being hurt. They may not have recovered from previous issues in friendships and relationships. I mean, that happens. The trouble is when this becomes a subculture, because what it does is it teaches that people can never heal. And that doesn't just discourage people from attempting to heal or attempting to move on, which would be bad enough, because that can and does cripple people for life. But what really makes it dangerous is that this kind of attitude is contagious. And ultimately, it's a very lazy attitude, and this is promoting laziness, and it's promoting the idea that you don't have to mature, you don't have to ever think that you'll outgrow something, or that you'll outlive something, or that perhaps time will change your perspective, and as your life gets filled with other and better things, the old hurts will fade, and they won't get to you as much as they once did. And the trouble is that if people think that there might be a lazy way out, then that tends to be the direction they go. And of course, if no one is trying to get acquainted, trying to form friendships, then the ultimate result is that people become more isolated than they would have otherwise have been. And that gets them off on the wrong foot. And in addition to that, when all your own perspective is all you have to go by, I mean, how do you get corrected if you have a flaw in your thinking, or if perhaps your feelings are giving you a skewed view of the world? You don't have anyone giving you that pushback. And then we have people who aren't forming the habit of interacting with others, and then if they ever decide to give it a whirl, it makes those future attempts more awkward, less natural, and then they decide, I don't want to do this, and that just feeds into the cycle of avoiding all human contact. And then that can spiral people off into a very disconnected and depressed state, and unfortunately we know what that can ultimately lead to. Now, it's one thing to be alone because of the circumstances, but it's quite another to seek it out deliberately and to actively make choices to ensure that you'll remain alone. And there are voices on social media that are shouting from the highest hills how happy and content they are and how marvelous it is that they're single and they don't have, any friends they need to worry about. They haven't had children. They don't care about forming ties. But that is just the image they're projecting to the camera. What's the reality? And how convincing is the show they're putting on? How many of us actually believe what they're selling? And how many of us can really make the claim at an instinctive, bone-deep level that what they're preaching actually makes sense, or that it squares with the rest of human experience? I would say probably not. And if we look to our own past bad experiences and put it into context of who were we dealing with at the time, what of our own actions and attitudes contributed to the situation, and then we separate that and we realize that other people are not of the same disposition and that the situation has changed. We ourselves have evolved. And then we realize that things aren't just going to be this endless repeating pattern of hurt, and it's worthwhile to open up and connect. And it's admittedly a very difficult habit to break, and our own personal demons play a major role in that process. They can really slow things down for us if we allow them to take control. But the alternative to having that battle with our own anxieties is that we will experience permanent isolation. I think it's much better to face a few risks and allow for the possibility of good friendships than to seal your fate of being totally alone. So that's what I got out of this week's verse, and now the time has come for you to tell me what you got out of it. Are you on a similar train of thought? Did you get something different out of it? Do you want to focus on a different aspect of the verse than what I brought out? I would love to have that conversation. So let me know in the comments or come see me on Gilded. There's a link to join us in the description box below, and you would be very welcome. But that will do it for this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.